Good morning, everybody. So I'm Shannon Lee Simmons, and if you don't know, if you haven't, creeped on me online or anything like that, so I'm an entrepreneur in Toronto, all around money nerd, and I run my own business called the New School of Finance, where we provide awesome financial advice. And I'm really stoked about talking here today. I'm a bit nervous, so if I start rambling or anything like that, let me know. So today's topic is work, and I'm super stoked. I'm really flattered that I was asked to speak on this topic of work today, because work is so important. We spend 35 to 40 hours a week, most of us, of our lives working. And so that's something that's important. Sometimes we see our coworkers and we're in our workspace more than we're actually at home on our couch watching Netflix. So, loving what you do for work is really important. I think the bounce went away. No, it didn't. Okay, so at some point we're going to have dancing emojis, and it's going to get wild up in here. So yeah. We spend our life working during the week, and it's also how we afford our life. So when I'm talking to people about money stuff, what they do for a living, what their career is, what they work at, this stuff is what we spend our life doing. So our work matters. So I think that it's a really important topic to talk about, and I'm super excited that I get to speak about it today. And what was interesting is that I learned that one of the reasons that they asked me to speak about work was that they were like, we really want a speaker who is somebody who works really hard and works like a boss. And I'm like, cool, you think I'm a boss? That's amazing. Me? But in all honesty, what's funny about that is that I use the term like a boss, like a boss? I use it all the time. So I hashtag girl boss, lady boss, this boss, job love, and I'm like, what the hell am I actually saying about myself when I say I'm a boss, right? And what does that mean if somebody thinks that I'm a boss and I'm working like a boss? What does that mean? It's clearly meant as a compliment, but does that mean because I'm my own boss? Is that why somebody works like a boss? Or is it because I have a team and technically I'm somebody's boss? Or is it that people think that I'm a ridiculous baller, yachting every single day and I'm on a boat, right? Why do you think I'm a boss? And why do I think I'm a boss? And what does that all mean? So I got really existential in Boston, and I went pretty deep on the internet, and I'm going to show you what I found. And today's talk is about working like a boss and what I think that means. So we all know the hashtags. We have like a boss, girl boss, entrepreneur life, job love, all that stuff, love my job. And so what I found really interesting is that usually when we go on social media, it's a place for us to share the highlight reel. We all know that everything on social media is fake, and it's just the best times ever. No one's taking a selfie when they're eating Cheerios out of the watch watching Gilmore Girls, which is something I do a lot. But I'm just kind of posting the really positive moments in my life. Well, now what we've started to do, and it makes sense, we spend 40 hours a week working. So of course we're going to start to post these highlight reels of our job, right? And these are all about work. When we're posting about work and we're using these hashtags, we're talking about our career. We're not talking about what we ate for dinner that night. We're not talking about some new outfit or outfit of the day. So as I said, I went pretty deep. So some of the things that came up when we were talking about like a boss on the hashtag. So we have no social life, but we've got games. We're doing travel, okay, we're jet setting. These are all on the hashtags like a boss, by the way. So I invite you to have a look. So what else? This is my favorite. My Tuesday office. This chick is just chilling by the lake. And she doesn't even have a laptop. She's just straight up reading. What kind of work are you doing? Can I do it? Right? So she tagged herself like a boss, and I'm like, okay. So I guess that's what that means. I love my boss. P.S. I work for myself, so we've got the entrepreneurship theme happening. We've got the classic laptop and a latte cup, which I am incredibly guilty of myself. Working like a boss today, right? P.S. just really not working at all and procrastinating. I also love this fancy car. I don't even know what kind of car this is, but I'm pretty sure it's fancy, because this guy says, there's no way I was born to just die and pay bills. Ugh. So like, he's angry about the bill thing, and he's like, I'm a baller. That's what being a boss, that's what working like a boss means. And then this guy's like, look at my pants. Look at my pants. I'm clearly late for my expensive boss day. And last but not least, this one gets me a lot. I have a lot of job envy and work envy when I see these workplace shenanigans. Look, we've got a ping pong table. No offense, Shopify. Look, we've got all this stuff. If your coworkers aren't fun and cool and your place isn't hip, like your job sucks, right? And so that's like what this stuff tells me, is that now we have another way to feel like shit about what we do for a living, right? So like, great, I'm not saving the world, I'm not chilling by a lake on a Tuesday, my coworkers aren't up to shenanigans, like, I hate my job, I hate my work, right? We get all pissed off. And I think that it's good to have a highlight reel of when we're working like a boss, but it also can be really detrimental because it just makes us feel like crap. And when we're working at a job 40 hours a week, you want to feel good about it, right? Because it's important that you don't wake up every morning and hate your life. So I posted this, and this is not just my way to show off. So 30 under 30, no big deal, it's fine. So this is what I wanted to, this is what I'm actually making a point here. So it's really easy for me to stand up here and be like, thanks for having me come, guys. I'm a boss, and here's how you do what I do. But this is a moment where I probably I did tag. I'm like, girl boss, right? But then I also posted this beside it, at work by 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings. So this is the highlight reel that we see. Okay, top 30 under 30, oh man, Shannon's killing it, why is that so good? And this is like the freaking reality of the situation, is that I'm at the office at 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings when everybody else is sleeping and being awesome and having brunch, and I don't eat the bacon, and I get really upset. So like, I think that it's important to show the reality behind the situation, because working like a boss to me, the travel, I mean, there's this imperative that like, if you have endless flexibility, you make so much money, you hardly work, like that's what it means to really be successful. But it's only half the story. I think that there's so much more that goes into working like a boss. So the first thing is enjoyment. There's 4 pillars, take notes. These are very, very mind-blowing. Okay, so enjoyment, purpose, financial stability, and a sustainable future. So if all 4 of these things are kind of working together, then I think that work is really satisfying and is actually what we should all be aiming for. It's not one without the other, because when any one of these things is off kilter, you're going to maybe be dissatisfied, broke, resentful, frustrated, right? So all 4 of these things need to kind of work in tandem. And when that happens, that's the beautiful moment when we have bossdom in the workplace. So let's talk about enjoyment for a second. Okay, so what do you like to do? So this is an important question, and do you notice that I didn't say what do you love to do? I said what do you like to do? So when I was a kid, I definitely did like working with numbers and making plans. As some of you may know, I was the kid that like when I had like a lemonade stand, I was like, let's scale the shit out of this bitch, right? Like I was like on it, right? Like I was really that person. And so like for me, making plans, and I did it in that voice and my mom was weirded out. She's like, why are you sounding like a 40-year-old man? So when I think about things I'm good at and things I like numbers and I like working with spreadsheets, I know, and that kind of thing. But I don't sit there and like, I love spreadsheets so much. Sometimes I do. But you know, I love doing magic tricks, right? Does that mean that I have to have a career as a magician just because I love doing magic tricks for fun? So you don't have to do something that you like. You can love something, but when it comes to your work, if you like your job and you're good at it, I think that's still killing it. And a really good way to tell that is if you can like drop into flow. So flow is like when your skill set aligns with what you like to do, and it's one of those moments when if you like drop into flow and you like look up and it's been 5 hours and you didn't even notice it went by. I think that's a really good sign that you like what you're doing for a living and you like your job, because you can actually do it and not realize that you're not counting the minutes like, oh God, let me out of here. You're actually like engaged in what you're doing. So for me, perspective-wise, if you can do something that you like, that you can actually drop into flow, at least 50% of the time in your work week, I think you're winning. Because doing something that you love, me doing magic tricks all week, awesome, but like, is that actually fulfilling? Is that the whole story? Do we have to do what we love all the time? I have never met anybody who loves absolutely every aspect of their job. Every job, doesn't matter who you are, has shit parts to it, right? So a lot of people think that, oh, hold on, this isn't, there we go, I'm wearing a top hat. So a lot of people think that like, I have a dream job, right? It gets in the media, I do these speaker things, it looks pretty glamorous, and of course when I'm like putting my highlight reel out there, I'm like tagging myself as a boss and everyone's like, great, cool, look how glamorous your life is. But I wear a ton of different hats, right? So, and after this I'm probably gonna get a top hat because I think I look pretty ravenous. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also a financial planner. I do an e-commerce school. I work as a speaker. I'm also a tax specialist, which is pretty boring. And most of the time, I'm an administrator, email monkey. So what I mean by that is that I sit and answer emails all day long. And when I was a kid, I didn't sit there and say, man, you know, when I grew up, I want to spend 5 hours a day answering emails and having a panic attack when my inbox won't empty. That's like, that wasn't the dream, right? But that's the frigging reality of the situation. So I don't talk about that. That's not what we really post all the time when we think about work. But 50% of the time, this stuff comes with it. But 50% of the time, I get to do something that I actually like. And so for me, that means that I have like work enjoyment. So just accepting the fact that like there might be parts of your work that you hate, that's pretty normal. And I think it's okay to accept the fact that not every aspect of your job is gonna be killing it like a boss hanging out at a lake on a Tuesday. I can't get over her. I wanted to Facebook her and be like, hey, what's up? What do you do for a living? Can I do it with you? So, okay, purpose. So if you have purpose in your job, that means you just don't want to do the bare bones minimum. You're not going in and you're like, okay, I'm just going to count the minutes, I'm getting out as soon as I'm done. You actually want to do better, and it's something that you can be proud of. And this is important because you don't have to be changing the world. And I'm not saying aim small and do something really selfish, but what I mean is like, I'll give you an example. I had a client the other day, she's a project coordinator, and she's like, you know, I love my job, I just feel like I should be doing more with more impact. And I feel like, how can I am proud of what I do, but like it feels so stupid because I'm not, you know, curing diseases or solving world hunger issues. But you know what? She's really good at her job and she's lovely at work and her team really needs her. So her impact on her team is that they come to work for their 40 hours a week and they're pumped because they work really well together. And then their project runs really smoothly because she's a PC and she's like owning that situation. And so the project runs smoother and the client is happy. And then that company gets to hire more people to give them full-time employment so that they can all have jobs over the holidays. So don't say that you don't have impact in your work and that you don't have something to be proud of just because it might not be something that people want to Instagram, or maybe you don't get an article written about you or something like that. That doesn't mean that you can't have impact. So finding a way that you can have impact in what you do and be proud of what you do is important. Does that make sense? Yeah? Did I talk too fast? Probably. So like, I talk about really boring stuff that actually has no impact. And like, I mean that. Like, I talk about budgeting and like freelancer taxes and RSPs, but I found a way to like, make it my own, right? So I get to have fun with it. So I'm not just doing the bare bones minimum where I'm like cranking out tax returns and just trying to like get as much in there. I actually care about what I'm doing. And you know, for that person that I do their tax return, I made an impact there too. I'm not solving the world's problems, but I have pride in what I do, right? So I have purpose in that as well. Okay, so financial stability, this is obviously my favorite. And I am so frustrated. Look, it actually looks like it's flying. Away into my pockets, who knows? When we look at the boss, like a boss hashtag, we see ball in cars, ball in watches, that guy's pants, he's real proud of them. And I'm like, okay, is that really what it's about? No, because everything is different. So can you actually afford your life? And can you afford plans? It's twofold. Being financially stable doesn't mean that you have to be a billionaire with a yacht, okay? Like, there's a whole shade of gray in between there, but it also means that you don't have to sacrifice every single thing about you to do what you love to the point where you are scraping by, right? There's like 50 shades of gray, gross, in between not being able to pay your bills and like being on a boat, right? And so where is that for you specifically? That's a really important thing to figure out. And can you afford your future plans? I think that's where you want to focus there. And keep in mind, figure it out for you. Not for your neighbor, not for your friend, not for your coworker, not for the people you scroll through on Instagram at like 3 in the morning and feel like shit about. What is it for you personally where you're like, I need this, not with that person? Because somebody might only need like, you know, $50,000 a year to do that. Not that that's a bad wage, but somebody else might need $500,000 a year to do what they want to do. It's a totally different ball of wax. So if you figure it out for you, if your job is financially sustainable for you, then that's all that matters. Who cares what your friend is making? Like, who gives a shit? It has nothing to do with your finances. I swear a lot, I'm sorry. Okay, and then the last bit is that there's room to grow. So if you're working in a dead-end job where you feel like there's no future, you're not working like a boss because you're not going to be able to grow yourself at all. And then this one gets me all the time, the burnout factor. So you might have an amazing job that pays you well and everything is going well, but you are hustling so freaking hard that when you look out 5 years from now, you're like, I will be dead because I can't keep going at this pace. So you need to have the perspective to also say, like, is this job sustainable with my time? Like, am I going to burn out, right? So when all 4 of these factors kind of come together, this is the moment, guys, when we're working like a boss. And you can imagine how rare that happens in real life, right? So it'd be so great for me to be like, and that's all, folks. Okay, good luck. Because, but when you guys said like, hey, you want to talk? You're a boss, right? Like, this is why you should run this talk. When I look at being a boss like this, I'm like, huh. I think I've only been a boss for like 4 hours in my entire career. I'm a fraud. Because honestly, how rare is it that all these things will line up for all of us, right? So what I'm thinking of, and this is what I want to talk about for the last little bit here, instead of having this be like, I'm a boss and this is the only definition of it, I kind of think that this is like, these 4 pillars are kind of like what we're aiming for. It's like on the horizon. We're trying to get to that bossdom, if you will, that place where what we do, all of these things align. Okay? And the one thing is that, actually, we're gonna go there. So it's really hard for you to, okay. So it's construction. Bastards. Interrupting. So it's really hard for us to get to that place of Boston, right? Where all of those 4 magical things align, and it's never really, it's kind of like, it's really hard work to get there. So I'm gonna share my journey through trying to find Boston. So in 2010, I was working on Bay Street at a 9 to 5. I had a really cushy job. I mean, it was fine. I was making a nice wage, but I knew in my gut that something wasn't right. And so when I was writing this talk, I was like, what was it about that made me know? I was alerted, like, something is not right here. So when I go through, I'm like, well, those are not normally like that, but that's okay, doesn't matter. When I go through, I was like, okay, I wasn't working with the demographic I wanted to be working with because I was working with, like, you know, super high net worth, $1 million clients to get in the door, and I was like, the market crashed, we got bought up by a bank, I was in a bureaucratic place, like I was like, this is not me, this is a square peg round hole, I do not feel super fulfilled by this. But I had the financial stability and the sustainable future. I left at 5, I made really good money, and the horizon was like literally on a boat, right? So it's like, what do I do? But I wasn't there yet. And so I think this is the check-in that, like, at each one of you, when you look at your work, you always want to be thinking, like, am I there right now? Are all 4 of these things kind of working? And I knew, like, no, hell no, it wasn't always working. I had one half of the piece, but not the other. So I quit my job, because I'm ballsy like that, and then plunged myself into an oh shit moment, which we're going to talk about an oh shit moment in a big way. Because I had just quit my cushy job, and I was like, great, what now? And so I launched this thing called the Barter Babes Project. There's actually some Barter Babes in this room right now, which is pretty, yeah, thank you, this is great. So what that is for 1 year after I quit my job, I started bartering financial advice. So I gave financial advice for everything from like a bicycle to chocolates and like lasagnas. So it was the smartest, stupidest thing I ever did. Why was that? Okay, well, I clearly had the enjoyment and the purpose piece down. I was so proud of what I was doing. I loved so much the demographic I was working with. I was having a blast. It was so, like, all the feels, right? All the good things. But I was getting paid in fucking lasagna. So, like, not okay. Not okay. And so, that's not sustainable. I gave myself $35 a week, and blew through that in like, I don't know, a month. Told no one, kept blogging about it like I was living off $35 a week, crying to my husband, and then saying things like, we're so screwed, and then I had to take money out of my RRSP to pay rent. Financial planner, fuck up. Okay? So like, not okay. So definitely not there yet, right? So it's a stark contrast between like the financial stability and all that, and then I had all the feels. But again, it's not one or the other. They all have to be working in tandem. You can't have these extreme situations. It's not about all the self-sacrifice for the happiness piece, and it's also not about the golden handcuffs where you hate your life. So I knew that I had to keep going. And over the next few years, have been constantly trying to figure out that balance every single day. We need some hip hop. So I started the business out of my house, and then clients started to come from like the internet, and my house started to feel like a bit of a brothel. So I was like, I think that I need to rent an office. So that was a very scary moment for me, and I kind of upped the stakes, and then I hit the oh shit moment there, because I'm like, oh man, the stakes are high. And then it's like, okay, things are building, life is building, great. Okay, this is good. I'm so exhausted, I can't do all of the work anymore. So my sustainability burnout just was out of whack. So I had to hire a team, and that is terrifying. So as soon as I took on my first person, I was like, oh shit, now I'm responsible for somebody else. What if we fail? What if I can't do all the things? And then we work together, and now it's like what makes me happy, and the enjoyment and the purpose piece has shifted for me too. And so now I'm trying this new branch of my business for the online school, and I'm currently in between the oh shit and everything is possible right now. So I'm going through that part right now as we speak. So what's happening right now? Well, right now, for this brief moment in time, I'm going to cherish this moment, because right now I feel like, okay, I love what I do. I've got some financial stability. I'm not yachting, okay? If I would be here right now. I'd be in like the south of France. And I feel like there's potential for me to have a sustainable future. So right now, in this moment, I feel like I'm a boss for this. But you'll notice, so after looking at myself and critically assessing like what I've been up to over the last like 5 to 6 years, I say for now. And I think that's a huge important thing. This is always gonna change, guys. What makes me happy, what gives me purpose, what the financial stakes are. I mean, hell, if I wanna like buy a house and have babies, what my financial sustainability right now completely changes like 3 years from now, right? And so it's constantly changing, and it's this ideal that we can't have all the time, and the expectation that you have that shit all the time is like just gonna exhaust you and make you feel like crap, right? So what happens? It's an ideal that we need to chase all the time, and I think that one of the important things that when we are chasing these things is that we get to a place where we realize that things are out of whack, we're not happy, something has gone wrong in our work. We take a risk, we land in the oh shit. We work again, things build up, we need to shift, we're unhappy, we take a risk, we land in the shit. So this is the one consistent thing that when I look at what I've done and what other people do, this seems to be the only thing that actually is consistent throughout the entire course of anyone's career journey is the oh shit moment. So what are they? Well, you don't have to quit your job. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you have to like be brazen and everyone goes into their job on Friday and does a mass quitting. So, although that would be epic, and I think we should start a hashtag if we do. Because I want to watch. Like a boss. And so what are those oh shit moments? Okay, so in anyone's career, these happen when you ask for a raise. They happen when you get a promotion. They happen if you quit your job, change your plans. Maybe you want to pack it all in and move to Costa Rica. Who knows? Right? Costa Rica. Or maybe you want to start a business. Basically, anytime in your career, when you're feeling like you are not happy in your work and you have to do something to shake it up and you have to take some sort of risk and put yourself out there, you're inevitably going to fall into an oh shit moment. It's going to happen to you. Filled with insecurity, filled with imposter syndrome, filled with like, what the fuck did I just do? Right? Those are all going to happen, and they should. So for me, the big lesson that I've learned over the years is that I am still afraid. I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't afraid of stuff, if I wasn't nervous about this talk today, if I wasn't afraid right now that like this huge business risk I've taken was probably the stupidest thing I've ever done. But I'm not afraid to be afraid. I I think that's the thing. I'm like, bring it on. Because generally, again, with the wrestling voice, what is happening? I'm not Hulk Hogan. But, or am I? So what happens is, I'm not afraid to be afraid. I think that's the big takeaway, is that I know that this is gonna happen and I know it's gonna change, and I don't look at that because generally speaking, when I'm terrified, I'm probably on the brink of something that's pretty rad, as are all of you. If you think back when you've been really afraid, think about what came after, right? I bet you it was pretty good. So I have just a couple more things to do, like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, go. So this is pretty vulnerable, so everyone just be nice to me and clap, even if you're not happy. So, I mean it. So, I recently launched the biggest thing I've ever done, so it's an online school, and I actually posted this online, so some of you may have seen this already. But this is something I started to do a while ago, when I'm about to take a huge risk, like quit my job, or hire a person, or build something that's a lot of work, and I'm throwing my whole self in, and I know I'm gonna hit one of those scary, terrifying, oh shit moments. When I'm just before, on the eve, I usually write myself a letter that I can read, so that when I'm at 3 a.m. and I'm kind of freaking out, and I'm kind of crying, and my poor partner is like, oh, you're so insane right now, I can pull this up, and I can reread it, and it's a reminder. So I'm gonna read this for you. And so yeah, please be nice. So, dear future self, you're about to launch the biggest project you've ever taken on. Good on ya. If things don't pan out the way that you planned, that's okay. You are not a giant failure. No matter what happens, you have so much to be proud of. Be proud of what you've created. It's amazing. Be proud that you're not afraid to work your ass off for something that you believe in. You've put your whole self into something, and you're going to put it out there for anyone in the world to judge. Being vulnerable like this is scary. You're brave. And lastly, celebrate the fact that you're facing your fear of failure like a boss. Right? Please don't stop being stupidly optimistic. It's your special skill in life. Because no matter what happens, it's the journey that defines you, and this journey's been epic. One love, present self. So, I'm getting all up to you. I wrote this to myself, and I'm telling you right now, I have read it like several times in the last month since the launch, because there have been so many moments when I've been so scared that what I did was stupid and I don't know if this is all going to work out, and then I read that and I'm like, no, at one point you thought this was a good idea. You can make it through this. So that's a tip that I would say if you're about to take a big risk in your work. Write yourself a letter and say, like, why do you think this is a good idea? So you can read it when you're questioning your sanity. And then last but not least, I just want to work through this stuff just to drive it home, that being a boss is not that static place where all four things are perfectly aligned all the time, and if you don't have that, your work sucks. It's an ideal that we constantly have to work towards in our work, right? So it's like, we're here, we work, and then our priorities shift and we have to realign. We have to take a risk, we're probably gonna land in the shit, and then we work hard, right? So being a boss, in my mind, has nothing to do with actually reaching this perfect state. It's actually a state of mind that I work within all the time, right? I'm trying to chase the dream so I can make sure that my work makes me happy, I'm being financially stable, I have purpose, and I'm not gonna burn out. And when one of those things falls out of line, I have to take a risk, and then I have to deal with the shit and work really friggin' hard in order to come back up again, to try to always chase that place where work is actually meaningful and it matters. So, last but not least, this is our last slide here. We're good. Okay, so a non-boss mentality, if you're looking at your work and this is you, maybe you're not operating in a boss mentality with your work. It is what it is. Meh. I hate my job. 8 months later, I hate my job. Okay? This is not a boss. This is a person who's not working towards those 4 goals, or they know that something's out of whack but they don't care, or they are too scared to take the risk, or they're not willing to put the work in when they hit the shit. Okay? Those are the 2 things. So that's a non-boss mentality. A boss mentality is like, okay, things are out of whack. What else is possible? How do I get there? Bring it on. So for me, if I think about being a boss from this point of view, where it's a state of mind in your work, then I'm like, hell yeah, I'm a boss, right? Because that is what I feel like all the time. But it's not about finding some perfect workplace or some perfect job that doesn't really exist. It's about your own stuff and making it perfect for you, and constantly understanding that that's going to shift and you're going to need to reprioritize. So at the end of the day, These are the 4, I don't know why enjoyments went black. I'm not a designer, guys, I'm sorry. I use emojis because I'm bad at graphic design. So if these 4 things are what make purposeful work and what makes work exciting and makes you feel good about what you're actually doing for 40 hours a week, our work defines us, right? It says something about who we are, what's important to us, and what we think is worth hustling for. So check in with these 4 boxes, and if you're not aligned and if you're not at that perfect apex, nobody really is, but you know, if you have a boss-like mentality, then you can keep working towards it, and you can eventually have work that like really, really makes you happy. The end.